now. So just introduce yourself and your title and kind of what you do.
My name is Scott Moore. I'm the site and festival manager for High Five Events. We produce a large-scale races, the Austin Marathon, the Austin Ironman, the Cap 10K, and so on.
And you were a runner at one point as well, so you have experience in that regard?
I would like to say I was pretty good. I mean, I was a sub-15 5K guy, so anybody that, knows anything about running, that's fair. It's not great, but it's pretty good.
So for my project, I've been, kind of crunching some numbers and trying to do the data, looking for a correlation between times and how much heat plays into that versus humidity. So maybe let's start from a personal standpoint. How did those affect you when you were running, and have you seen that in your career as a runner?
Well, I mean, I was never a super long distance runner. I mean, I stuck to the 5-10Ks. I think I ran a 10-mile race one time. Training was a big deal. I remember high school and college, I ran at night when I was doing my long runs, past 10 miles just for the heat issue. So it's a big deal. I mean, if you don't have access to water, it's one of the reasons we put a water stop at every mile of the Austin Marathon this year, is because you may not take it at mile 3, but you may need it at 5, 6, 7, 8, and so we prepared for that.
So on the High Five side of things, has that been a concern that you've either spoken about like in meetings with your company, or is that something that you've heard from runners as far as the unpredictable weather in Austin in February, and has that affected what y'all are doing moving forward?
I mean, weather in Texas is dynamic at best. We were lucky enough not to get rain, but that's just an operations standpoint. Rain would have been good that day. It would have cooled things down a little bit and been better for the runners. Obviously trying things out and doing that. But as far as running the runners go, that would have been not a bad thing. And of course we planned for it. Actually, we added, I think, 25 to 50 gallons of water at each aid station, because we predicted a high 70s temperature for the race day. So it's definitely something we take into account.
So now that y'all are putting on both the 3M and the Austin, has there ever been any talk about playing around with the dates, since typically I feel like the 3M has a little bit better weather in regards to not being as humid or hot?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the 3M's in January and the marathon's in February, but I mean, being in Texas, those 2 months can have 30-degree temperature, they can have 90-degree temperature. Again, it's a big dynamic, and weather does play a fact. I mean, the 3M this year was windy, and that wreaked havoc on a lot of things, but being a downhill race, it still proved great for times. The Austin Marathon being hot, we might have liked it to be a little windier instead of hot, but we kind of dealt with what we're served.
Right. Do you think, and have y'all been able to discuss this in meetings or anything, that humidity and heat have played a factor in the amount of people who do or don't sign up for Austin, kind of as like a destination race? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Austin is a destination race, and the marathon isn't something people just do. It's something they plan for. So in an event like a marathon, over year, retention is a big deal. We want the runners to come back, and if they remember 80-degree weather and their slowest time, and cramping up at mile 18 because it was hot, that's a big deal for us. And we take into account the water needs, the heat. We put out water sprinklers that people run through. I mean, heat is definitely something we look at very, very
do y'all do
seriously.
any data visualization, any data analyzing when it comes to that sort of thing, or is it kind of just focusing on more of putting on the event itself? That's kind of the end goal?
Well, I mean, being this is our second year to produce the Austin Marathon, it's now something we can tackle, that we've gotten past the growing pains of the actual event itself, I said second year producing, first year owning for High Five Events. So every year we can do something a little more, the date we can't play with as much because of Austin, and permitting and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So we kind of get what we get, and we have to make it work. So
So would me doing a data visualization project, trying to find correlations between humidity versus times and potentially humidity versus signups or finishing, and comparing that to just the heat without the humidity, do you think that would be of any value to y'all once it's completed?
Absolutely. Any information about registration numbers would be hugely beneficial. I mean, obviously we're trying to capture as much registrations as we can, and like I said, being year over year, even if it's word of mouth, I mean, groups like Rogue Running and Austin Runners Club and that, you know, if somebody who ran their first marathon this year told somebody who's going to run their first marathon next year, oh my God, it was so brutal and it was so hot, you know, that person may go and run in Dallas, you know, they may run the Dallas Marathon or the, you know, Houston Marathon, or, you know, so the word of mouth and, you know, each year's experience means a lot to the next year's registration, I think.
Cool. Well, hopefully my data will be of some use to you. So.
Oh, we'll definitely consider it.
All right. Thanks for your time.